So according to, I think it was CDC,
Hmm.
over 600,000 marriages are ending in divorce. I think that study was based on 2022, so it's probably more or less now. I'm not sure, but the point is, it's almost 700,000 marriages are ending in divorce. So with that being said, why are
That's
marriages failing? Like people are getting married every day, every month, every week, every year. So why are so many marriages failing?
uh, I think marriages are failing because we don't really know and understand why. I don't say why we
Mm.
get married. I could say
Mm-hmm.
why we get married, but let's do you one better. Why you get married, and then what is the significance, and what does marriage really involve?
So in
What does it entail?
so in other words, after the wedding, after the honeymoon, now what?
Now what? Yeah,
So that we're not understanding what marriage entails, what it takes to stay married,
yeah,
the dying to your flesh, the submitting
yes,
one to another, the
yes,
leave your mother and cleave to your wife,
yes.
those types of things, because those are the things. Hmm, that makes sense.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
makes
you
sense.
got two individuals. You got two individuals, natural, real,
Mm,
one, two,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
flesh
So when
people.
we got married, I was 26
Mm-hmm.
and you were 23.
Mm-hmm.
So you had 23 years of your stuff
Mm-hmm.
and I had 26 years of my stuff. So
Yes.
now we're coming together with all
Yes.
of our things and
And
all of our stuffs.
we gotta try to make this stuff go together, try to blend these things together. And I think that's where the first
Mm,
maybe the first little hurdle or obstacle goes up. Now I have I have a single man's mindset and mentality, and I have
wow.
to break that down and dismantle that and get rid of that, and then develop a husband's mindset and mentality,
Wow.
and sometimes without any kind of teaching, any kind of mentorship, uh advice from other men. Like
Mm, hmm.
you just you come in like that sometimes.
So is it safe to say that marriages could be failing because we don't understand what it takes to stay married, what it takes to be married, what marriage really is?
That's a
Like the
yes, to say
roles
the
in
least.
marriage. There are biblical roles in marriage, but
Yeah,
everybody don't do their marriage according to the word of God.
right.
But I believe that if you're doing your marriage or trying to be married or do marriage or whatever they say today
Hmm.
outside of the word of God, is gonna fail.
and
With
and
with
and
with some
right,
other things
right,
in there,
it
mixed in
doesn't
there, but
necessarily have to fail, but I
stand a
think
better chance.
yeah, and I think the quality of life, and I mean, let's just do it like this.
Hmm.
We're gonna do it like this. I'm not going to sit here and say, because
Hmm.
maybe half of those marriages that have failed in 2022 or 2023,
Hmm.
according to
Study.
the
Hmm.
next study, half of those are Christian marriages. So I can't sit here
Yeah,
and
we can.
say
You're right. You're right.
because you're not saved,
You're right.
then your marriage is prone to fail, when Christian marriages are failing. So it's
Okay.
just a decision that
You're
you
right.
have to make. Look, if you want to marry, you sit down and you come up with, hey man, let's do this. Let's give
Hmm.
it a shot. And not saying give it a shot like that, but I'm committed to you, you're committed to me.
Hmm.
We want to do this, we
Hmm.
agree to do this, and we jump in and we do it. Then that's not just it. There's going to have to be another commitment
Right. Evolving,
and another
growth,
commitment.
maturity.
Yes, that's just not it. And a lot of times we can't make it from stage to stage.
Hmm.
We get a lot of people get slammed before they make it to the next stage. They can't get out of phase one or phase two to get to the next phase, because we don't have what it takes to move from stage to stage, from level to level.
So that same study said that the top 5 reasons that marriages was failing,
Hmm.
it said number one was lack of commitment. Number 2 was infidelity.
Okay.
Number 3 was domestic abuse.
Okay.
4 was arguing and conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 was finances.
Okay.
I could see
I can see
those.
every last one of them.
Wow.
But for where we are and what we're discussing, marriages, we come into marriages not understanding whether we're saved or not saved. It's a covenant. It's a covenant.
What does covenant mean? See, we don't even
It's
know
a
what
it's a
covenant
covenant.
means.
Like Old Testament, and this is rough. This is a paraphrase, rough draft
Mm-hmm.
of what an Old Testament definition
Mm-hmm.
of covenant. Now, if you want a more precise, accurate definition of covenant, by all means, feel free to Google it. But right now on the spot, listen, a covenant is an agreement between two people.
Mm-hmm.
In the Bible, it was an agreement between God and whoever he was cutting it with. So when he cut covenant with Abraham, he made a covenant with Abraham. He made Abraham promises, and then he cut covenant with him. He made a covenant. This covenant, the animals were involved, in slaughtering the animals. It had to do, of course, with the blood, but more so when these animals were killed, a part of what the covenant was, if you break this covenant, let what happened to these animals happen to you. So we needed the blood for the sacrifice, and okay, we needed all that to put it on the altar, and we burning the fat. We're doing the rituals of what it takes to offer a sacrifice. That's what a covenant was. But the real spirit and heart of the covenant was, this covenant cannot be broken. It cannot be broken.
And we're entering into
covenants.
marriages, not understanding how important the covenant that you just entered into is. The Bible says that we perish for a lack of knowledge, and our marriages are perishing for a lack of knowledge. Could be in this area.
And I add to that. It also says, don't make a vow. Don't vow unto the Lord if you're unable to keep that vow. It would be better
to not vow
at all than to make a vow and break the vow.
And
we're standing before the Lord. We're making vows. We think we're just repeating after the pastor, which we are. And if you don't know, look, I'm gonna raise my wife raising her hand. We're gonna raise our hand. Hopefully you can see our hands. We waving our hands. We're raising our hands to admit and acknowledge that we did not know 30 years ago. We did not know this.
No, we knew that we were taking a vow to love each other forever.
Yeah.
But the intricate details on what it took to stay married and to honor our vows and to keep the covenant and to keep our promise that we made to one another in the covenant, in the vow, and to stay in harmony with each other, we didn't know that it was, to death do we part like that. We said it, but in sickness and in health that we've gone through, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, to have in the whole, in all of that. We say that, but then when it comes time for the rubber to meet the road, we're not doing that because we haven't changed our mind, or we don't understand what it takes. Like it talks about in Luke, I think it's chapter 6, where it talks about building your house on a firm foundation, so that when life and the world situations come against it, it's strong enough to withstand. And we're not doing that. Our foundations, I believe that marriages are failing because there is no biblical foundation to withhold it, to withstand. We're not building a strong foundation together in this agreement, in this covenant, in this pact that we take.
We think marriage is supposed to just kind of be on autopilot, I guess. So when we get married, so now what?
We go to work and we move in together.
Yeah, and then we got to go get something to eat, and then we're clueless.
Yeah.
So
it's so much more to just. There's nothing wrong with those things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so much more to that. And a lot of times we don't get to the so much more in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
So much more can come in year 10.
Mm-hmm.
So much more can come in year 26 when your wife get diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now what?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's the year 20 when something from the past comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Then both of you forgot.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with your marriage then? How is your marriage strong enough then in those parts? Everybody can go out and take trips and be on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and dress up and take pictures and
Mm-hmm.
have kids and go to work and be doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
But is our marriage, it's apparent that with over 600,000 divorces, our marriage are not lasting. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out why. Like, what are the little foxes it talks about? And I want to say Solomon talks about the little foxes that spoil the vine.
Mm-hmm.
These little life situations and things that come to
Mm-hmm.
spoil your marriage,
Yeah.
to divide in your marriage. Like it talks about lack of commitment, infidelity. How are we allowing these things in our marriage to divide us, to divorce us, to take us away from our marriages?
Yeah.
It's those things that we have to look at, because again, our marriages are failing.
Like a lot of times, it's what we do. It's what we do. Like you said, like your marriage may or may not be tested in early stages,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes it is. But it's what you're doing in that off time.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you're doing in between time.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you're doing privately. Like
Mm-hmm.
there has to be
Mm-hmm.
a desire to grow. There has to be a desire to learn how to be a husband. Like you have to learn how. You have to find out what a husband is.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you have to desire to be the best possible husband that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to do that. It's not just going to happen. It's not even going to happen with time, because you can just be the same dude for 20 years without ever changing.
That's true.
You have to seek and desire to change.
Yeah.
And speaking as the husband and as the man, for the young man or for the newlywed man,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to find out what a husband is for yourself. I mean, it's okay to look at other guys,
Mm-hmm.
to look at the model that's in front of you, and
goals.
yeah, and goals, and try to kind of add some things and take away some things and add to your game. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But what does husband look like on you and for you, and what does it mean for you
and with your spouse?
Yeah.
Like you're becoming one.
Yeah.
So you can look at others and desire what you think they have, and the look and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. But just don't get caught up into becoming that, because you don't know their struggle or what they went through. And then you may not, it may be different for you.
Absolutely.
So you becoming the husband that you're supposed to be, that God has ordained you to become, and then you becoming the wife that you're supposed to become, is between you and your spouse, because you are becoming one. So you are in an agreement. You have to talk about these things. You have to grow together. You have to learn together. So you can rule divorce out, like close the door.
Yeah.
Divorce doesn't have any access to divide, because I don't think anyone who got divorced, it didn't just get divorced overnight. It was probably in progress prior, way before the divorce actually happened. Because the enemy sets up camp. He comes in and he sets up seed and he sets up camp, and he just divides. He conquers and he divides areas in our life. And before we look up, we're so far apart that we don't see a way back. You know, and then our pride won't let us come back. And then we've done things that are unforgivable while we were lost. And now it's just difficult to come back from certain areas, especially if you don't have Christ.
Yeah.
It'll
almost appear
easier.
Easy just to let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
And I think there are some people who got divorced that didn't want to, but they didn't know what to do. Like they just couldn't take it anymore. Or some people, I believe, when we've seen some divorces, we've mentored thousands of people, but we've seen where they desire change, but they just couldn't turn that curve to to change, like
Yeah.
as it pertains to single-mindedness or lust
Mm-hmm.
or infidelity
Mm-hmm.
or the things that's pulling them away. They
Mm-hmm.
mean well, but it's just could not find within them. Like there are some women who can't submit,
Mm-hmm.
just not gonna do it. So it's like, how do you have a healthy marriage when you can't submit? How do you have a healthy marriage when you're still single within the marriage? How, with that mindset, it's just, I can see why marriages are failing because
Yeah.
we're not.
And it takes a willingness and a desire to change.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be willing and you have to desire to change for the better. If you're not willing and desiring and working on changing to make yourself better, then you're really wasting your time because there is an enemy. Whether you believe it or not, I, I'm not even gonna get into that. But just know that there are forces working against your union.
Yes.
You better believe that. I'm gonna say it as plain as I can.
That's plain.
There are forces that are working against your marriage,
Yes.
against your union. And if you're not willing to do what it takes in order to change some ways about yourself, some behaviors, to break some habits, to intentionally cause yourself to grow by denying your flesh and growing, then it's going to be a tough, tough time for two people to become one.
Continually become one. Like the Bible tells us that we are to be ever learning, always increasing in knowledge. We've been together married 3 decades and we're still learning things today. Just because we've been married 3 decades doesn't mean we know everything.
Right.
We're still learning, but the thing about it is that we're open to learning. Even in areas that we think we got it, we're still open to learning and improving.
Yeah. You have to be. You have to be ever learning.
Yeah, because we don't know everything.
Yeah, and then we know at this stage in our life, in our lives, and in our marriage that we've changed.
Yes.
So now you got the natural progression of ages and stages. So you're changing and you're growing as a person. We're getting older. Our needs are changing. Like you still have all that coming down the road.
Yeah. That's naturally
That's
coming.
naturally coming.
That's
so
not the enemy.
Right. That's not the enemy.
That's
just you. That's natural progression.
Yeah.
So you have to account for that as well.
Yeah.
But for the things that you have to work on individually, personally, then you have to be willing to do the necessary work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just what it is. Again, this is marriage, man. Yeah. This is so vital, and so this is the institution that God likens unto salvation. Like He's made marriage a picture of Him with His bride, being the body of Christ. Like He loves marriage. It's what it's a depiction of His relationship with man. I mean, he invests a lot in marriage. He expects a lot from marriage. He blesses marriages. He causes he a great marriage equals a great legacy. A great marriage equals an inheritance and a heritage, and I mean just being able to model in front of your children God's intent for a marriage. It at least gives them a great chance, an opportunity to follow that. Like they've seen it modeled in front of them. So whether they choose to follow that or not, they know. That's all you can do is give them as much of a head start, as much as an advantage as you can. That's all you can do.
Whew. Yeah. Well, we got some work to do. We got some work to do. So let us know in the comments why you think marriages are failing. We'd love to hear. So we can do more teaching and more instruction and more study on this so we can help these marriages remove divorce from out of its picture. We can stop this marriage failure that doesn't have to be. So let us know in the comments why you think marriages are failing.
Trying to give us enough space to, like, getting that space to clear it out. Did it stop?
It's still recording.